Well, I would like to say something. I would say that the region is paying for, bad choices by, should I say, African rulers? Yes, African rulers. Now, one of the main factors I believe that's contributed to, these bandits and these terrorists that are coming from the north. One of the reasons that I believe that's contributed to, them increasing their activities and stuff is um, the kicking out of France by these francophone countries that surround us. Burkina Faso, um, which one again? These other francophone countries that have surrounded us. I do not know why. Why? Um, Even though the French were not very effective in tackling these terrorists, their military presence there still stemmed the activities of these guys to a large extent. Now, what we've seen is that the Russians have come in. The Russians are stealing the resources, right? They're still stealing the resources. They are not even giving like uh, good political stuff. Yes, we know the French will steal resources, and maybe they would nudge you and be like, "Oh, be democratic, and push you and stuff," just so that they can steal your resources. I mean, it's still a good form of government they are pushing, and sometimes they support dictatorial centers. But now the Russians come in, they offer zero benefits apart from protecting the head of state from assassination attempts. There's nothing else that the Russians have seen or value that the Russians bring to these African nations. And now these terrorists, you know, they've gained so much strength. Instead of them being stopped in these countries, they have free will and free range to just roam about and intensify their attacks and stuff. And we're just paying the price for that. So I would say we're paying the price for the
So, but
foolishness
can I
of,
say,
yes, I'm with you.
all right, yeah. So I think yes, to an extent, you are very correct. I agree with the fact that I don't think it was right for the francophone countries in Africa basically to pivot to Russia as against France. I don't think that was a wise decision. Yeah, in the sense that yes, France has its obviously there's a lot of neo-colonialist elements that France still has in those countries, right? But ultimately, the sort of stability that France was offering, both in terms of economic value and security value, or geosecurity values as well, was also very important. But then, in as much as France was there, even when France was still offering those security backings to those countries, the insecurity was also still increasing, right? So I think many of the coups, right, that just happened, that gave way for Russia to gain ground in those countries. Many of those coups were quite recent, like from 2020 below, right? For the most part, at least, maybe one or two were 2019, right? So, but for the most part, most of them happened like around 2020 below, right? And the insecurity crisis has been happening way before 2020. So, in as much as yes, I agree that it maybe got worse after 2020, but still, it was already still progressively getting worse. Maybe just it became like a more of a geometric progression, after 2020 and after the French, left and all of that. But ultimately, even with the French still in control to a degree, it was also still getting worse, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just like, yeah, France living obviously worsen things, but I don't really think it's like the core of the reason as to why these, terrorist operations have escalated to this extent, right? So yeah, but what do you have to say about that? But yeah, anyway, to your point, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that's why I don't think the African countries or the West African countries at this point in time can actually control or mitigate against these terrorist operations on their
Okay.
own. I
Yeah.
think they need help.
Yes. Yes. Is it better now? Is my audio better now?
Yeah, yeah, it's a bit more stable. Yeah.
Okay. So apart from the fact that they need help in when it comes to the military side of things, they also need help when it comes to um, governance and creating a functioning state. Because um, we don't have to like beat around the bush. The only way to stem this problem, yes, it's a military problem because these guys have an ideology that is crazy, and then the way they carry out this ideology is militaristic. So you have to fight them like militaristic caliber, like to be able to monitor these guys, monitor their activities, to be able to, do your own counter propaganda and all those things. You need a a functioning state, a state in which the central government is able to control all regions of its territory. And the only way that can be built is by following models that have worked. It's by following models that have worked. And, you know, that is what I would say. It's not like I'm glazing the French or glazing, Western stuff, but like uh, their model has been shown to work, right? Their model has been shown to work. And treading that path for these nations, these African nations, would have just um, been a whole lot better than pivoting to Russia that is just doing this stuff. And in the past, I used to be um, um, I used to be someone, or I still am. I'm still someone who feels like okay, uh, democracy is not the ultimate form of government for everyone. You should um, uh, try out different forms of government and see the one that works for you. And sometimes I've supported, having a benevolent dictator. Someone that would
Yeah.
just someone like a Lee Kuan Yew, so not like a dictator like that, but like a transformational leader. Uh, if that were to be like the um, the stuff or the goal that these other francophone countries they were chasing, you know, um, that would be so much better because I see what Captain Ibrahim Traore he has done nothing apart from dissolve the electoral council and you know some fake electric vehicles that do not even make sense. It's not even like you don't see Burkina Faso progressing into a sensible nation that will be able to control all its territory and be able to rein in the activities of these guys. So it's a very um, hopeless situation. So how can we stop? How can we control this stuff? So I'm going to talk about for Nigeria now. For Nigeria, uh,
Okay.
yeah. So because that's the only nation that I feel has the chance to actually stop these guys. Okay. So well, the first thing to do is um,
Oloremi, welcome. I don't
yeah.
read forward today. Sorry, go
Okay.
ahead.
So the first thing to do um, is what has been done. Partnership with these foreign um, countries like the US. Partnership with the US, and I like the fact that the way the Tinubu administration went about that partnership. Not letting the US take the lead in destroying communities and turning even more people against the government, but more of like intelligence sharing, you know, uh, and stuff like that. Yes. And also lobbying to change, you know, the narrative that's been in the US that okay, yes, this is what to say. Now, um, partnership with capable nations, it is something that is, the bedrock of um, of our fight against these guys. Apart from that, um, what else? What else? What else? I mean, the other issues are like very, 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 very political and deeply divisive.
Yeah.
Deeply divisive because we have,
So
we have figures in the north like Sheikh Gumi and these guys that say a lot of rubbish, and then they do not view this as a as an existential threat. Like they are supportive of some of the activities of these guys. So it is the rest is like deeply divisive. I don't think I've thought about means by which that other part, the political aspect of it, can be dealt with. But for the military aspect of it, partnership with capable nations is what I see. And then uh, I think the government is towing the right line in doing that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. That's why from the very first day when Trump made that Truth Social post where he said that, yeah, where he said that he was going to send in the military into that godforsaken country, or now disgraced country rather, guns are blazing. Yeah, a lot of people were against it. I know Gordon was against it. I think to an extent you also against it. But I think time has proven it to be the best course of action, right? In the sense that there was just no other way. It was quite obvious that the Nigerian government lacks.
Okay. Can I
Yeah, it was
come in?
just quite obvious that the Nigerian government lacks the capacity or the willpower to end it. And so I was always supportive of Trump coming in, whether or not the Nigerian government was going to partner with him. I just felt that that was the best course of action for the Nigerian people. So it's good to see that you are also coming around to that.
Oh no, no, no. I'm not coming around to. No, that's where I think that's where we differ. I was not supportive of um, the initial way in which the Americans came about it. Now, I would still stand by my statement then saying, is there, we must always look at things like sometimes we look at things and we're like, oh, this is this, and then we form like we are, um, we ought to be careful not to form like conspiratorial stories about matters and that stuff. The Nigerian government is incapable of handling these guys. It is not like there's a conspiracy of lack of willpower. They just don't have the resources. There's a reason why we don't have data for like all the um like we don't have like m- crazy data for like every member, every Nigerian. That okay, yes, there's no biometric something. We do not even have the data centers that can handle that locally. So like there's some things that the government just we don't have the capacity to do it. So that is what is happening. It is not like there was a lack of willpower. Now, the way the Americans came in at first was, oh, it was more of like a crusader kind of stuff, and that has never worked anywhere. They tried that in 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 other countries where they just go in and they start bombing places and bombing stuff, and it would be so disastrous because they could pick a target and just be like, oh yeah, this stuff. This is the place where they were doing this stuff. I mean, and then they just call it collateral damage. Then they just destroy the economy of the country, divide the nation so badly. But I like the fact that you know the Tinubu administration saw what could happen if they were not smart about you know this whole matter, and then they took the smart approach by letting the Americans and Trump, get a little bit of feeling that we're in charge. We actually made these guys start taking care of these terrorists are committing this genocide, and but still um, guiding them and being like, okay, this is what will allow you to do, this is what we'll do, and that is just the right approach, not
I
the
have one
approach that
question
Trump
for
was
you.
taking. Okay, okay.
Yeah, if Trump administration had come in politely and said, hey Nigerian president, good evening. Please, we want to intervene in the security crisis affecting the country and stop the Christian massacre, which was the premise through which they came. What do you think would be the response of the Nigerian government? Would it be to say that, oh yes, come and stop the Christian massacre, or their response would be to say that no, there's no Christian massacre. We're just having insecurity challenges that are part of the they'll call it interior affairs of the country. Which of those options do you think the Nigerian government would choose or lean towards? Because immediately they started the whole. I mean, everything has to follow through from a context, right? Before Trump made that Truth Social post, there was already an allegation that there was a Christian genocide, a genocide against Christians going on in Nigeria, which is factually correct, right? But then the response of the Nigerian government was not to say that yes, there's a Christian genocide, but it's not only that. There's also, you know, headers attacks, attacks against Muslims and all of that, right? But that wasn't the response of the Nigerian government. The response of the Nigerian government was to try and disprove any sort of allegation of a Christian genocide, just terming everything as insecurity challenges that are diversified in the country, right? So ultimately the whole it was a contention between the American right and the Nigerian government trying to save face for whatever reasons, and that's why Trump came in with that sort of strong word. Now, if Trump had pivoted and was like, oh, okay, there's no Christian genocide, but we just want to help in the security crisis, I don't think they'll get any sort of effective. They won't be able to properly address the issue, because at the end of the day, the core of this issue, whether I like it or not, is Islamic fundamentalism. That's the core of the issue affecting Nigeria at the moment. Islamic fundamentalism. We saw what happened in Kwara State. It was not a header farmers clash. It was radical Islamists coming to indoctrinate the community. They refused. They reported to the security agency. Someone in the security agencies leaked it, right? And then they came in because of the reported and slaughtered anybody they could see, including women and children, by the way. So you can't say that that is not a Christian genocide. That's clearly a Christian. Yes, it was a Muslim community, but the fact that the Muslims refused to accept their version of Islam and institutionalize it against Christians, led to that. So I mean, like ultimately, you have to call a spade a spade. The Nigerian government was not willing to do that, and then Trump had to threaten them, and eventually they agreed to it.